So there's perhaps no bigger product for Bishop Lifting than wire rope. We sell it in all kinds of sizes, constructions, finishes, including bright, galvanized, stainless. We sell it in bulk lengths on large reels, or we cut it into shorter lengths and build slings or other custom assemblies. But if you don't know much about wire rope, then you might not be sure what kind you need, and that's what this video is about. It's a brief overview of the most popular types of wire rope we offer, how they are used, and which one might be right for your application. So 6x19 class is really kind of like the dominant class of wire rope, and it is 6 strands wrapped around a core, each strand having 19 wires. Now it can be bright, which is plain or galvanized or even stainless. Now bright does not mean color, so you might be looking at this table thinking this one's bright. Well, this is galvanized, which is why it has a shiny finish. Bright actually means plain. So this wire rope in front is a bright finish, as in plain. It does have a lubricant over it, but it is a plain finish and a little bit tacky to the touch. The lubricant can be light or even heavier, it just depends on what you need. All of these ropes right here have a steel core. There are fiber core ropes and composite core ropes available. We don't stock or do a ton of those, but they are out there. If you need them, we can get them for you. Now, a 6x19 class wire rope is going to be used for general winching, pulling, and lifting. Most of our chokers and slings are built using 6x19 class. And so that includes smaller variations too. Think of 6x19 as a master class, and there's variations under there. So 6x25, 6x26, those are types of 6x19 class wire ropes. So this wire rope in the middle is a 6x36. I have it wedged in between two 6x19s. You can see it kind of looks the same, but this wire rope is going to be more flexible. So it's a 7/16 diameter, but I can easily bend it in my hands. You can bend 6x19 too, but it's stiffer. And obviously you can't feel all of that like I can, but you have to take my word for it that 6x36 class, which will include a 6x37, is going to be a more flexible wire rope. Ideal for running over shivs, anywhere you really need like extra flexibility out of your wire rope. 6x36 is a good option for that. So one more point about 6x36, what you trade is flexibility for durability. That doesn't have to be the case, but generally speaking, and I don't know how well you can see this on camera, but these individual wires and strands are thicker and more dominant and more resistant to abrasion. When you jump to the 6x36, you'll notice that these wires are finer. That's what gives you the flexibility. You have 36 wires per strand. So more wires total, being smaller, more flexible, but you can also abrade or scrub or damage those wires more easily. So the next class of cable that we're going to talk about is GAC. GAC is short for galvanized aircraft cable. Now it's important to note in the industry that's a really loosely used term. Most of the cable in this diameter, this type, is not going to be aircraft or mil spec. So if you need that, make sure you order it accordingly. Most of this is just general purpose cable used for winching, zip lines, etc. Now it's commonly sold in sizes from 1/16 up to 3/8 inch. 5/16 and 3/8 probably being the most common, especially for winch lines. Typically it's 7x19, but really it's just a 6x19 product. So you have 7 individual strands that are all identical. So you have 6 strands wrapped around a core, but the core is the same as the outer strands. Thus you get the 7x19 name for it. One advantage of GAC in a 7x19 construction is that it's more flexible than typical wire rope. So like a true 6x19 class wire rope is going to be a little stiffer. This wire rope's a little more flexible. Obviously it's not so greasy. It does have a bit of a tacky feel to it. So if you want to use something like this for cable railing, just know that you will get a little bit of gunk or grease or whatever on clothing. Let's say you lean up against it in a white shirt. This will transfer a little bit onto you, but just in terms of handling it, it's a much cleaner wire rope to work with compared to a typical 6x19 class wire rope that has lubricant on it. Now, GAC wire rope or galvanized wire rope can also be had with a coating. So I've got a couple examples of that. This is a small diameter black nylon coated cable. Think of this as like exercise equipment. This is a PVC coated clear cable. So when you order this, pay attention to the cable diameter versus the overall diameter. So whatever the coating adds to the wire rope is the finished diameter, but all of the strength comes from the wire rope, not the coating. So you want to make sure you base it on the actual size or diameter of the wire rope on the inside. And there's even this really small diameter wire rope. Hopefully you can see it. This is a black finish wire rope used in theatrical applications. We sell that as well. It's really just a galvanized wire rope coated black. last category we're going to talk about is specialty wire rope or cable. Let's start with EHS strand. This is a stiff 1x7 construction, and that's going to be the most common. In larger diameters, you can get up to a 1x19 construction. This cable, though, is extremely stiff. You can see I can barely bend that in my hands. This is really used for like bracing applications. Arborists will use this for tree tensioning. You can use it on cell phone towers and larger diameters, but this type of cable, again, is really stiff. It's not meant to make eyes or loops or attach fittings per se, outside of EHS 1x7 type fittings like tree grips or big grips. This cable is called Cable-Aid, and this is actually looking a lot like a typical 3/8 GAC that I showed earlier, but this cable is way more flexible. In fact, if I just wave it in front, you can see it's floppy. And this is the most flexible cable that we offer. We only sell this in like a 3/8 or a 1/2 inch. This really just comes into play when you need a super flexible cable or wire rope. We can make slings out of it. It is not your everyday GAC that you're going to use on a winch line, but if you need an ultra bendy flexible wire rope, this is a great choice. This piece right here might look a lot like the 3/8 GAC that I showed earlier. You notice it's a little bit darker in color, and that's the difference in appearance between GAC or galvanized cable and stainless. This is a 7x19. This is going to be for corrosion resistance, or maybe like a marine or food environment where you need a cable that will not rust. You can have it in 304 or 316, 316 being a higher grade of stainless steel. So we do sell this to a lot of customers in those applications, but it's not quite as common as galvanized cable is. And this is another version of stainless cable. I did reference cable railing earlier, saying you don't want to use a typical galvanized cable in cable railing. This is a 1x19 and a 1/8 inch or 3/16 diameter being the most common. And this is meant specifically for cable railing. It's not the only application, but it's maybe the most common. A lot of fittings are meant to attach directly to this cable. So if you want to do cable railing, this is the stuff to go with. Last two items on the list here are going to be specialty swedge wire rope. So this is kind of like traditional normal swedge wire rope, and you can see how smooth it is. All of these strands have been compacted. This is really a performance wire rope that we sell to our logging customers. So think of swedge as a wire rope that started as a normal wire rope in a bigger diameter and then got swedged or pressed down into a tighter diameter. So you have greater linear density, meaning it weighs more per foot because it started life as a 3/4 inch wire rope and it was pressed down to be a 5/8. That's just one example. So when I talk about linear density and weight per foot, if you took a 3/4 inch piece of regular wire rope, so 6x19 class wire rope, that weighs 1.04 pounds per foot. 3/4 swedge weighs 1.25 pounds per foot. That's where you get the strength, and also why it's so stiff. Now, when you compare these two types of swedge wire rope, you notice this one's darker. It does have lubrication on it, and this swedge can get really greasy really fast. So if you haven't worked with it, just be aware of that. When you transition to something like super swedged, this cable is really for like commercial zipline applications. So for our customers who need a very strong cable that is not messy, that will hold up in the elements, it does make for a good winch line as well. We sell this for a lot of different applications, but really zip lines, commercial zip lines, and winch lines are kind of the most common. Now, super swedge means that this is swedged even more so than this wire rope. So it starts life as an even larger diameter, slightly larger, but just enough to matter, and then gets compacted down into that smaller finished diameter. Okay, now that was a data dump of information and we know it, but hopefully you understand the basics of wire rope and feel better equipped to shop for it now on lifting.com. We realize this video might not have answered all of your questions, so please reach out to us if we can help further. You can reach us via live chat at lifting.com or visit the Contact Us page and fill out the form or locate a branch nearest you. Thanks for watching. Please remember to like this video, leave a comment, share the video, help us grow the channel so we can keep putting out informative content like this in the future.